Welcome to BUSN 2019 Professional Project. Now, for many of you, this will be your final semester at CQU, and this course is generally an opportunity for you to show off, to show what you're capable of and show what you've learnt cumulatively at your time at CQU. Look, I really hope that you've had a good time, a good experience with the university, and I certainly hope that we collectively give you a good experience with this final course. I just wanted to talk about three key things in relation to this project course that make it quite different to other courses that you may have studied here. Working backwards from 3 to 1. This subject is all about the assignments. So whereas I would hate you in your other coursework, either this semester or generally at university, to really focus on assignments, and accumulating percentage points towards your final mark. It's not really a great idea when, after all, this is an educational institution where the focus should be on getting yourself educated. And being able to show off you've educated through assignments is only the cream on the cake. The actual cake, the solid stuff that you take with you out the door into the arms of the future employer of yours, that solid cake should be made of actual knowledge, not being just able to demonstrate knowledge within a university environment, which, let's be honest, is very different to the real world. Now, this particular subject is different to that because the whole point of this is to demonstrate your ability to do the project. And the project is the assignment. So your ability to take a particular research task and carry it through from the beginning to the end independently or reasonably independently, that's what this whole subject is about. So there's nothing wrong with you being very, very focused on understanding the assignment and getting the assignment done. You've effectively done all the new learning you need to do within your degree, except of course the courses that you might be learning in this last semester of yours. And this is all about applying that collective learning that you've done in your master's level courses and applying them to a project that has relevance for the future. Now, I'm not going to hammer on and on about relevance, but I will say one thing that you do need to keep in mind. The project that you're going to do needs to be very directly relevant to your profession. So if you're studying an MPA and either planning to become an accountant, or if you're not planning to become it, but you have planned to become an accountant, this needs to be an accountancy-related assignment or project that you carry out. Similarly, if you've studied mainly management, then you need to make this project about management. You don't get to choose that general field at this stage. You have to do it within your field. And that's, of course, very good for you because that's where you've done all that learning, and you'll be able to take the benefit of all that learning and throw it into this one pot, this big project that you're going to do this semester. Now, the other thing about this, of course, is that it needs to have direct relevance to your future. So, it's an easy for you to construct a project, for example, that might be about, professional accreditation standards within, the world of accountancy or the world of human resource management, how to get at differences between human resource management standards in Australia and your home country, for example. Perfectly valid project to do it in. But I'm also encouraging you to think a little bit beyond that. You might remember that a research and business project, which almost all of you will have done, that allowed you a bigger scope on what kind of project that you could undertake. But remember, you didn't actually carry that project out through to conclusion. Now, you can't mimic that project in this particular course. You've got to do a new project. But allow the memory of that course or that unit to filter through your mind as you plan this term and this subject. Feel free to come up with a research project that is not just about your profession as a profession, but something that's really important to your profession. If you have any doubts about it, ask your on-campus tutor, or ask your on-campus lecturer, or even email me. Quite comfortable to take your emails and give you some early advice whether what you're planning is suitable for this project or not. Really, this is the time to start thinking about it week one, what your project's going to be. Now, assignment 1 will give you lots of feedback, hopefully, for assignment 2, and I really urge you this time not just to focus on the mark. In fact, don't care too much about the mark. Remember, assignment 2 is 60% of this subject, so you can do dismally badly in assignment 1 and still pass the course if you learn the lessons of assignment 1 and apply them to assignment 2. So try to get it in on time so that you'll get it back on time to benefit from it when it comes to assignment 2. Now, we assume that you have done the best part of a degree in your area of specialisation, but you have to demonstrate to us that you have done so. The important thing about this project course is that we are not here, unfortunately, not any longer, to hold your hand. You're about to step out of CQU into the real world. And as I've said on the Moodle site, employers and auditing and accrediting bodies expect us to deliver to you a course that gives you, that demonstrates independent learning and the ability to carry out independently a project just like this. So we need you to demonstrate that you can do that, because we're required to demonstrate that our students can do that. That doesn't mean that we're not here to help. We're here like the parachute. We're here like the umbrella. We're here to catch you when you fall. But do try to show your maturity and your experience and your knowledge in this course. That will be something that we as markers will reward, but it's also something that your future employer will recognise immediately when you step out into a job there. So the second point is we're here to help, and one of the areas that we ask you to first access whenever you have a question is your Moodle site. I'm just going to drag across the Moodle site onto this page here, and this is what your site looks like. I've just transferred it, barring my face there in the corner. My face is up there instead. Now, I'll be opening up the different weeks of, which is, here's week 1, week 11 to week 2 to week 12 will be opened up in due course very shortly. Here's your team if you're based on campuses. If you're an external student, then you really will be listening to these, I hope, to my YouTube clips, and you'll be concentrating your attention in terms of asking for advice on me, and that's quite proper. If you're based on one of the campuses, go to the Moodle site and check who your person of contact will be. These things here, these assessment buttons, they're mirrored, they're identical to these assessment buttons. The former lecturer and the course designer, Dr. Steffi Macht, has created a couple of very extensive recorded assignment briefings. They are not the absolute authority on these assignments. The absolute final authority in these assignments is here, but they contain some very useful additional tips for those of you who've got time to listen. So I've kept them on there. Use the news forum to keep up to date. You'll receive emails that trigger that I've put something up on the news forum. Do keep a very close eye on your CQU student email. I'm sure you'll realise that by now at this stage of your master's degree, that you need to focus on emails and you need to read them and pay attention, otherwise you miss out on valuable stuff. Student discussions, this is a place where you can post and talk amongst yourselves. I won't be necessarily monitoring this. And Q&A, if you email me with a question which I think all of you need to know the answer to, I'll be popping it up on there. Okay. Now, back to here. In addition to the Moodle site, there's a lot of resources out there. You'll have seen on the side of the Moodle site here, you'll have seen about the ALC on the right-hand side, where you can get additional help from academic learning centres at CQU. That's particularly helpful if you're on campus, but even for external students, it exists. Google Scholar, for those of you who haven't discovered this delightful tool, just Google Scholar, and you'll find yourself very quickly in the whole world of scholarly sources. You can also access journal articles nicely through the CQU library website. I'm not going to have to tell you how to do that now because I'm sure you're more than familiar with that. But just in addition to the Moodle site, these are the kind of main sources of help that you can legitimately have. Remember, we are here to help, but we're not really meant to be the primary source of help. Sorry. I think that goes without saying. All right, now I want you to this is the most important message of this video, and I've left it to last. I want you to spend this first week thinking hard about your assignment. Yes, of course, familiarise yourself with the assessment items. Of course, familiarise yourself with the Moodle site and get yourself settled in. But this is the key job for you, is to think, to map out where you're going and think through the whole journey before you start it. Because if you do, you'll save yourself a monumental time, and you might even make the difference between passing and failing this course. So in terms of mapping it out, of course, Moodle's helpful. But the thinking stage is the critical stage, where you start looking at these fuzzy concepts in the back of your mind and trying to give them some sort of shape. Now, I've gone through I've put together very briefly here some suggested stages. And once I've gone through them, you'll realise there's a bias in the way I think that's designed to help you get to the end product as quickly and efficiently as possible. It's actually not that complicated a subject in some ways, but of course, I'm an experienced researcher. For me, this is almost second nature. But I'll try and give you a bit of a flavour of how I would approach this if I were you. First of all, these are questions you want to ask yourself. Do you have a burning question? Is there something that you've come to think about a lot during your time at CQU? Now, I know nothing about accounting, but even my own research areas do consist of elements that have financial or accounting aspects to them. One area that I'm, for example, interested in is white-collar crime and corruption. This relates to, auditing practices and ethical and moral practices within the accounting profession. Now, that's clearly a critical area in relation to your profession if you're going to become an accountant. Your ethical and your ability to behave in an ethical, moral, and legal manner is a key component of being a good accountant. So, if you've got this kind of area that's in the background of your mind and that really interests you, and for example, if I was do MPA, that's probably one that would interest me, then you should make this project about that. So first of all, settle on a question. But for a lot of you, when it comes to this question, your answer will be no. I don't have a burning question. I've been so busy with doing my courses and earning part-time to keep myself in food that I haven't had time to have a burning question in relation to my profession. And that's perfectly understandable. So the next stage would be then, what kind of questions can you ask with secondary data? Now, the word secondary data is something you should be familiar with already from researching businesses, of course, but I'm going to emphasize this very strongly. Secondary data is not primary data. And it's kind of obvious. But what I'm saying here is it is very important that you do not collect primary data for this course. We don't want you handing out surveys at work. Let's say you work at a pizza shop, handing out surveys or asking the boss if you can interview him, for example. No. You're not allowed to do that, and we're not endorsing you to do that. We want you to rely for this project on data that already exists and can be legally and ethically collected and turned into a project such as this. I'll be talking about that further in a minute, but it does kind of limit the kind of question you can ask, research question you can ask in doing this project. My recommendation is that you retrofit a research question onto a data. I know that sounds a little bit naughty, and in fact, from a pure research perspective, it is a little bit naughty. But the reality is, in the terms of a 12-week period and the level of research skills that you've developed, I think this is a good, realistic way to go. So first of all, have a look around for data and then develop a question around that data and then go through it. First of all, you ask yourself, where can you get that data? I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And also, then the final stage will be retrofitting a body of literature, scholarly literature, and we'll be talking about that in future weeks, because for assignment 1, or assessment 1, that's critical that you assemble a body of literature about the project that you're planning to do. But if you stop for a minute at this stage and think, if you were to just rampage ahead and think of a question that was lovely but totally unrealistic, one that you couldn't answer with secondary data, and then started to assemble all this literature about these research questions that you got burning in your head, and then you discover that you can't get the data, your project is ruined and it can't be carried out, and effectively you can't pass this subject. So you actually need to start with being realistic about the kind of data you can collect before you start all these other processes. So this secondary data consists of data that has already been collected by other people, and you'd be surprised by how much there is. I recommend that in Google you stick in quote marks open data, and you will find that there is a whole world of open data around there. The American government keeps a massive amount of data sets. The UK government, the Australian government, the European Union as well, the Australian Bureau of Statistics. There's huge amounts of data on all sorts of interesting stuff. You just have to search for it. However, for those of you who don't want to handle mass data, it can be a little scary. Simple statistics like means, which are basically averages, they're satisfactory for this project. If you want to use simple stats like that, everybody can do that in Excel using basic formula. And you can use YouTube to learn how to do these basic statistical analyses if you don't know how to do them already. But another source of data, and remember, statistics is really just glorified counting. It's 51 cases of this, 14 cases of that. 51 is bigger than 14. Whether it's statistically significant or not, it's bigger than. So you can make in your analysis section of this project that you can put together, you could get away with statistics as simple as that, counting. I'm just going to go through some of these things. Now, for example, this is just an example. US government's open data sets. They've got 131,535 data sets in all sorts of areas, including business, agriculture, education, energy, and the finance for the accountants, for example, science and research. Now, just because you think, I'll stick to business because I'm doing a business degree, you may well find that some of the questions that you want to ask are in some of these other categories. You can do on this site, as in on the other sites, you can do some searches of keywords. Remember, American spelling of keywords is slightly different to English and Australian spelling. UK government, they've got a big search box up there, and their databases run into the tens of thousands. The European one, it also has categories which just enable you to browse through. So going back to what I said before, have a look around the data, find some interesting data, and then think, how can I make this highly relevant to my profession? I know this is a little naughty. This is creating a story after the data has come in, but there's nothing wrong with you doing that for this project. This project is about you demonstrating that you know the principles and the practices of doing research. You don't have to prove that you're Einstein or capable of some sort of magic light bulb moment. The final example I want to give, Australian Bureau of Statistics, is obvious, and I assume many of you will go and have a look there. Sometimes there are other things that are very publicly available data. Seek.com is a place where you can find out the number of jobs in different states in a particular profession. Data. You could, for example, I once looked at the possibility of looking at dating sites. And dating sites enable you to search by level of education and field of interest, or by keywords. You could actually look at that. I don't think that's highly relevant, so I probably wouldn't use that for this particular assignment, because I'd have to ask myself, how is that going to be really relevant to your profession? Crucially relevant to your profession is the language we use. But websites, public websites of large government organisations contain things like policies and standards that relate to different professions, and that includes organisations or professional organisations from different countries. You could go and have a look, for example, at university, if you were thinking about, in your case, going on to further study in a particular discipline, maybe a PhD. You could go and have a look at PhD opportunities or scholarships. That would be data. There's certain scholarships websites that you can go and look at. We're not going to bottle feed you. We're not going to spoon feed you the ideas, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of the kind of data that's out there. All right, that's probably enough for today. I wasn't intending to quite go on as long as this. Look forward to talking to you. I look forward to talking to you in less than 2 weeks' time, when I'll put up another YouTube clip, possibly before then, and I'll be posting the fact that I'm putting something up onto the news website. So it's called, yes, the News Forum website. All right, thanks very much, and good luck.